will only fly.
In Precambrian time, before there was any complex life, these rocks were formed. Igneous granites welled up from the molten heart of the earth and cooled. Rock transformed by heat and pressure into still harder rocks. The bones of the earth, the tough skeleton around which the continent formed. A 2-billion-year drama. Precambrian stone pushing up, buckling into a mountain range. Seas inundating the land, their sediments compressed with time into sandstone. Peaked landscape gradually worn by water, wind, and ice to rock ridges and sand. This was the genesis of the Precambrian shield. Across the northern half of the North American continent, the Precambrian shield lies uncovered. A rocky topography visible over much of northern Canada and disappearing beneath a surface of newer sedimentary rocks in the northeastern corner of Alberta. Captain John Henry Lefroy came to this geological frontier in the 19th century to make magnetic observations for the British government. The rivers either flow through swampy tracts bearing little but willow, aspen, and undersized pine, or through low granite hills of very broken form, nowhere rising to a picturesque height. Hence, while it abounds with what an artist might note as pretty bits, it affords very few extended scenes of hills and vale, water and forest, such as one expects. The Shield has always disappointed those who came in search of a pastoral beauty. These low hills are the worn roots of a mountain range almost 2 billion years old. Their beauty is that of a landscape molded into low relief by forces made all-powerful by time. Mountains reduced to sand. Vast quantities of sand, compressed into sandstone, then released again upon the Earth's face by glaciers to drift and fill. Explorer-surveyor Philip Turner was one of the first white men to remark upon the sand-covered landscape south of Lake Athabasca. In 1791, Turner wrote of high sand hills, which, when seen off the mouth of a river, look like fields of ripe corn between ledges of wood, such as are seen in the hill country of England. A rising sandy desert of yellowish white with a chance scrub pine standing singly. The Indian people explained the sand by legend, that a giant beaver, becoming angry, churned up the sand with its tail. Nomadic sand, spurred on by wind to swallow the landscape before it. Sand heather, sand-binding grasses. The roots of colonizing plants hold the sand. In a moist era, the pioneer plants flourish, succeeding slowly to jack pine, the jack pine to white spruce. And yet, succession can be stopped, and often is, slowly by long periods of dryness and wind, or suddenly by fire. Set free, the sand moves again. Sand invaded lakes and streams, lush wetlands that inch by inch are smothered. There is no sense of irony in nature, no anticipation of destruction. In the shadow of the moving dune, insectivorous plants passively catch and ingest their prey. Plants adapted to a nutrient-poor environment, taking a portion of their sustenance from the plentiful insect life. The pitcher plant, enticing insects into its waxy vessel. The red-tined sundew. A landscape of sand, by its nature, changes quickly. A landscape of rock does not. North of Lake Athabasca, the rocky uplands of the Precambrian Shield have changed little in 10,000 years. These relics of Precambrian time were given their present shape by glaciers. Sheets of glacial ice advanced and retreated several times, depressing the earth beneath 2 miles of ice. Where the glaciers encountered rock that was weak or faulted, the ice mass dug in, carrying the shattered rock away. Furrows opened by an ice plow, filled with rain and snowmelt. After the Ice Age, the climate warmed. Plants and animals slowly colonized the landscape. Captain John Lefroy wrote, "The granite hills all round are covered with pine wherever the smallest crevice gives their roots a hold, thickly enough to appear clothed, while they leave clear, hard places for walking." Igneous and metamorphic rocks, formed by heat and pressure before life had any momentum on this planet, now harbor life. On the rocky upland where little soil develops, each generation of dying plant life leaves just enough nutrients to support the next. Rock that appears bare is in truth black with lichen. It is rare to find a surface in this barren land that is not habitat for some form of life. Sand, milled from stone by glaciers, gathered within the shield. Intervals in a solid landscape. Sand plains, beaches. In well-drained sand, jackpine root. Reindeer lichens carpet the open floor. In the past, when the absence of fire allowed these forests to mature, herds of winter caribou descended to forage on the lichen. The wheel of succession, turning, at times slowly, at times quickly, but always turning. The tinder of a dry landscape invites rapid change by fire. A low, wet environment resists fire, succeeds by the gradual process of decay. Lowlands that cannot drain gradually fill with decaying plants and sphagnum moss. They become bogs. Wetlands signaled on the landscape by stunted black spruce, by summer blooms of Labrador tea. The uplands drain quickly, storm water and snowmelt feeding the lowlands, replenishing myriad lakes. The water is cold and clear. No flood of silt or clay comes from the rocky upland to muddy it. The Canadian Shield is an isolated place, too remote, cold, and unfertile for most human pursuits. But the same isolation draws other life to it. For the plants and animals that live here, there is no more perfect place. Between predator and prey, no artificial barriers exist. Sinuous streams drain the lakes, led by gravity to the edge of the shield. The south-bearing streams fall into Lake Athabasca, a lake that is a large remnant of an even larger ancestor. When the glaciers retreated across the continent, they did so to the northeast. At one stage, their meltwaters could not drain, but dammed against the icy flank. There was no Lake Athabasca then, no Great Slave Lake. The two were one. The west-bearing streams of the Precambrian Shield fall into the Slave River and slowly descend toward the Arctic Ocean. The vast sea of meltwater that covered this entire lowland gradually receded and finally broke in two over a sill of Precambrian stone, the same rock ridge that causes the four rapids of the Slave River today. A geological landmark exploited by a colony of white pelicans, the northernmost on this continent. Few people have ever tried to make this part of the Precambrian Shield their home. The Chipewyan Indians, who lived by the caribou hunt. Trappers. Finding little foothold for his sustenance or commerce, the white man has tended to travel and think in wide sweeps around it. The western edge of the Precambrian shield has been left a quiet place, where loons cry and jackfish strike, where predator stalks prey in an undisturbed ritual of pursuit and vigilance. The beauty of this landscape is solitude. A raw poetry, unburdened by words.
For anyone considering a new career or a job change, TVOntario offers the 4-part series.
Your card are accepted. On Realities this week, 2 interviews from Newfoundland. On Wednesday, actress Mary Walsh, a founding member of the Codco Company, discusses theatre in Newfoundland with Robert Fulford. On Thursday, world-renowned painter Christopher Pratt discusses with Richard